Daniel sat in the quiet corner of a ruined library, brushing dust from an old stack of papers. The library had collapsed years ago, but explorers still searched its remains for forgotten knowledge. Most of what he found was broken pottery, torn books, or useless scraps. But that morning, his hands uncovered something different. Inside a cracked wooden chest, he found a rolled parchment tied with faded red string. He opened it carefully, afraid it would crumble. To his surprise, the parchment was still strong. Drawn across it was a map. Thick black lines showed a stretch of jungle, and in the center of the map, a symbol stood out: a skull with shining eyes carved in ink. Beside the skull, strange symbols were written in Mayan script. Daniel did not understand them, but he knew one thing. This was no ordinary map. For weeks, he had listened to whispers among the locals about a cave deep in the Yucatan jungle. They called it the Cave of Eternal Skulls. Stories said the Mayans had hidden treasures there, treasures so powerful that even the dead were set to guard it. Anyone who went searching never came back. Most outsiders dismissed these stories as folklore. But now Daniel held a piece of proof in his hands. As he studied the parchment, footsteps approached. His friend Maria appeared, carrying a notebook filled with her own research. Maria was a historian who could read Mayan carvings better than anyone Daniel had met. She looked at the parchment and frowned. "Where did you find this?" she asked. "In the ruins," Daniel said. "It looks like a map, but I can't read the writing." Maria leaned closer. She traced the lines with her finger, her lips moving as she tried to read the faded script. After a long silence, she said, "It says something like this: the skulls do not sleep. They wait for the unworthy. This is a warning." Daniel smiled. "Which means it's real." Maria looked uneasy. "Daniel, you know the legends. People vanish in that jungle. My professors believed the cave is only a story. Then why would someone leave a map hidden in a chest?" Daniel asked. "Why guard it for so long if it was nothing but a story? Think about it. If the Mayans built this place, it could hold knowledge about their people we've never seen before." Maria sighed. She knew Daniel too well. Once he set his mind on something, there was no turning him back. "If you go," she said softly, "I'm going with you. You'll get lost without me." Daniel nodded. He needed her skills to read the language. But more than that, he trusted her. They had explored ruins together before, and Maria always found answers where others saw only stones. Over the next few days, they prepared for the journey. They gathered supplies: water, dried food, ropes, lanterns, and machetes. Locals warned them again and again. An old man in the village told them, "That cave is not meant for the living. The dead guard it still. Do not go." But Daniel only listened with half an ear. His heart was fixed on discovery. Before dawn one morning, they set off into the jungle. The air was thick with mist, and the cries of birds echoed above the trees. Daniel carried the map tightly rolled in his pack. Maria carried her notebook and tools for recording anything they found. The jungle swallowed them quickly. Paths turned into walls of green, and every step forward was a struggle against roots and vines. As the hours passed, Maria noticed strange signs carved into trees. At first, they looked like ordinary Mayan patterns, but the more she studied them, the stranger they became. "These are not normal," she whispered. "They look like skulls with eyes. Almost the same as the mark on the map." Daniel felt a chill but kept moving. "It means we're close." The deeper they went, the more uneasy the jungle became. Birds grew quiet. The wind died. Only the crunch of their boots and the thud of their hearts broke the silence. At one point, Daniel thought he heard a whisper, faint like breath passing through hollow stone. He turned quickly, but nothing was there. By nightfall, they stopped to make camp near a stream. The fire gave them little comfort. Maria sat staring at the map, her face pale in the glow. "Daniel," she said, "what if the stories are true? What if the dead really guard it?" Daniel poked at the fire, his eyes burning with determination. "Then we'll face them. Humanity has always faced the unknown. That's what makes us strong. If the Mayans built something to last this long, it deserves to be seen. It belongs to history, not buried in shadows." Maria wanted to argue, but she saw the fire in his eyes. He would not turn back. She only hoped their courage would be enough. That night, as Daniel closed his eyes, he dreamed of skulls glowing in the dark. They whispered in voices too many to count, calling him deeper into the jungle. When he awoke before dawn, the dream still echoed in his ears. Somewhere ahead, the cave of eternal skulls was waiting. And Daniel was determined to find it. The jungle seemed endless. Every step Daniel and Maria took was heavy, slowed by thick vines, mud, and the weight of their packs. The air was hot and wet, making it hard to breathe. The sound of insects filled the silence, but now and then the noise stopped all at once, as if the forest itself was listening. Daniel led the way with a machete, cutting through stubborn branches. He checked the map often, making sure they followed the old markings. The lines on the parchment were not perfect, but Daniel trusted it. Something about the map felt alive, as if it wanted to guide him. Maria followed close behind. Her eyes scanned every tree, every rock, every patch of ground. She noticed details that Daniel often missed. Strange symbols appeared again and again. Carved deep into the bark of trees were images of skulls with glowing eyes. They seemed to stare at the travelers, warning them away. "Daniel," she whispered, touching one of the carvings. "These are not random. Someone made these long ago to mark the path. But why use skulls? The Mayans usually carved animals or gods, not this." Daniel wiped sweat from his forehead. Maybe they wanted to scare people off. Or maybe it was their way of saying what waits ahead. Maria frowned. "It feels more like a warning than a guide." Still, they pressed forward. Hours stretched into days. They crossed rivers where crocodiles watched from the banks. They climbed rocky hills covered in moss. At night, they slept lightly by the fire, often waking to strange sounds in the darkness. Once, Maria swore she saw two faint lights glowing between the trees. They looked like eyes. When she blinked, the lights were gone. On the third day, the weather turned. Heavy rain poured down, drenching them to the skin. The jungle floor turned to mud, sucking at their boots. Daniel slipped more than once, but he refused to stop. The cave was close. He could feel it. That evening, they found shelter under a large stone ledge. Water trickled from cracks in the rock, forming a small pool. As they rested, Maria studied the map again. Her fingers moved across the faded ink. She noticed something she had missed before. "Daniel," she said slowly, "look at this. These lines are not just paths. They match star charts. The Mayans must have drawn this map to align with the sky." Daniel leaned closer. Indeed, the symbols seemed to follow constellations. His heart quickened. So the cave is more than just treasure. It could be connected to the stars themselves. Maria nodded. It may hold knowledge they wanted to protect. Knowledge about the heavens. That would explain why they guarded it with fear. The thought filled Daniel with even greater excitement. For years, he had dreamed of finding something that proved humanity's deep past was more advanced than people believed. This cave could be the key. The next morning, they set out again. The jungle grew darker as the trees grew taller, blocking the sunlight. A heavy silence wrapped around them. Even the insects were gone. Daniel felt the hairs on his neck rise. He glanced back at Maria, who looked uneasy. "This place is wrong," she whispered. "Too still. Too quiet." Daniel nodded but kept moving. His determination was stronger than his fear. They climbed a steep slope, using roots as handholds. At the top, Daniel stopped suddenly. His eyes widened. Before them stretched a wide clearing. In the center stood a row of massive stone pillars, half buried in vines. Each pillar was carved with skulls stacked one upon another. Time had worn their faces smooth, but their shapes were still clear. At the base of the pillars lay bones, scattered and broken, as if travelers had fallen here long ago. Maria gasped. "This must be the outer marker. The cave cannot be far." Daniel walked slowly among the pillars, his boots crunching on old bones. He felt a strange pressure in the air, as if unseen eyes were watching. He turned in a circle, trying to shake the feeling, but it grew stronger with every step. "Do you hear that?" Maria whispered. Daniel froze. A faint whisper drifted through the clearing. It was not the sound of wind. It was the sound of voices. Many voices, speaking together in a language they could not understand. The sound rose and fell like chanting. Maria clutched his arm. "Daniel, we should go back." Daniel swallowed hard but shook his head. "No. This is it. We're close. We can't stop now." He pulled the map from his pack and compared it to the pillars. The skull symbol was drawn just beyond this point. The cave lay ahead, hidden in the thickest part of the jungle. They pushed forward, their steps quick and uneasy. The trees grew so close together that they formed a wall of green. Daniel used his machete again, each strike echoing in the heavy air. Suddenly, the ground sloped downward, and the trees opened into a narrow path. At the end of the path, half covered by vines and moss, was a dark opening in the earth. Stone steps led down into blackness. Around the mouth of the cave, skulls were carved into the rock. They glowed faintly as the last light of day touched them. Maria stared in horror. "The cave of eternal skulls," she whispered. Daniel's heart pounded. He felt fear, but stronger than fear was wonder. The cave was real. The map had led them true. All the warnings, all the legends, they were not just stories. He turned to Maria, his voice steady. "We've come too far to turn back now." Maria hesitated, then nodded. She tightened her grip on her lantern. Together, they stepped toward the cave, not knowing what waited inside but knowing they had crossed the point of no return. Daniel held his lantern high as he stood before the dark mouth of the cave. The stone steps looked old, carved centuries ago, but still strong. The carved skulls at the entrance seemed to glow faintly in the dim light, their hollow eyes watching the travelers. A cold wind drifted out from the opening, carrying with it the smell of earth and something older, something heavy like ancient dust. Maria stood close to him, clutching her own lantern. Her hands shook, but her eyes were sharp. She whispered, "Daniel, this place feels alive. As if the walls are breathing." Daniel nodded. He felt it too, but he would not turn back. He had dreamed of this moment for weeks. "Stay close to me," he said softly. Whatever happens, we keep moving forward. They stepped onto the stone stairs. The sound of their boots echoed down the passage, bouncing against unseen walls. Each step seemed to carry them deeper into silence. Outside, the jungle was noisy with life, but inside the cave, there was nothing: no bird, no insect, no sound of flowing water. Only the sound of their own breaths and the creak of leather straps on their packs. After a short descent, the stairs opened into a wide tunnel. The walls were smooth, as if shaped by careful hands. Carvings ran along the stone, long rows of skulls with wide eyes. Some were small, others large, but all faced forward, staring at whoever entered. Maria lifted her lantern closer. She touched one carving gently. Look at this. The eyes are not random. They form a pattern. Almost like stars in the night sky. Daniel studied it. Indeed, the eyes of the skulls lined up in constellations. His heart beat faster. The Mayans built this place with purpose. This cave is not just a tomb. It's a message. They walked deeper. The air grew colder, so cold that their breath showed in pale clouds. Whispers began to drift through the tunnel. At first, Daniel thought it was the wind, but the more he listened, the more it sounded like voices. Many voices, faint and overlapping, speaking words he could not understand. Maria stopped, her face pale. Daniel, do you hear that? Yes, he said quietly. We're not alone. Before they could move farther, the ground trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. From the shadows ahead, shapes began to appear. Slowly, figures stepped out from the darkness, tall, thin, and wrapped in the remains of ancient armor. Their bones gleamed in the lantern light, skulls bare and empty, yet their eyes glowed faintly with pale fire. Maria gasped. The Guardians. The skeletal figures raised stone spears and blocked the path. They did not attack at once, but they stood firm, silent and still. Their presence filled the air with dread. Daniel held his ground. He knew running would mean failure. He lifted the lantern high and took one step forward. The Guardians moved slightly, crossing their spears to stop him. The whispers grew louder, swirling around the chamber like wind through hollow bones. Maria gripped his arm. They will not let us pass. Daniel stared at the carvings on the wall. The skull constellations seemed to shimmer in the lantern light. His eyes traced the shapes. Suddenly, he realized something. Maybe they're not here to fight us. Maybe they're here to test us. He pointed at the carvings. Maria, look. These symbols match the patterns on the map. They're riddles. We have to solve them. Maria's fear shifted into focus. She moved closer to the wall, studying the symbols. Her mind worked quickly. These are star charts mixed with Mayan numbers. They ask us to find the missing star in the sequence. Daniel listened as she explained, but the Guardians inched closer, their bones creaking with every step. Time was running out. Maria traced the carvings with her finger, whispering to herself. At last, she pressed one carving, a skull with eyes positioned slightly higher than the others. The chamber shook. The whispers grew louder, then faded. The Guardians froze in place, lowering their spears. One by one, they stepped aside, leaving the path clear. Maria let out a shaky breath. It worked. Daniel smiled faintly. We proved ourselves worthy. They moved forward, deeper into the cave. The Guardians did not follow, but their glowing eyes watched as the explorers passed. The tunnel stretched on, twisting deeper into the earth. Every step was heavier, as if unseen hands tried to pull them back. At last, the tunnel opened into a vast chamber. The ceiling was high, lost in shadows. In the center stood a stone platform surrounded by pillars. Each pillar held a skull, real and ancient, their jaws open as if in silent screams. Faint light glowed from within their hollow eyes, filling the chamber with an eerie glow. Maria's voice trembled. "This is only the entrance. The true chamber must be deeper still." Daniel stared at the glowing skulls. He felt the weight of history pressing down on him. The cave was not just a resting place. It was a trial, a test of courage and knowledge. The Mayans had built it not to keep treasure safe from thieves, but to choose who was worthy to find it. As he stood in the eerie light, Daniel knew this was only the beginning. The cave would not give up its secrets easily. The deeper they went, the greater the dangers would become. But he also knew one thing with certainty. Humanity had always faced the unknown, and this cave would be no different. Daniel and Maria stood in silence, their lanterns casting trembling light on the chamber of glowing skulls. The air felt heavy, pressing down on their shoulders as if the weight of centuries rested there. Each skull seemed to whisper faintly, voices rising and falling like a chorus of the dead. Daniel tightened his grip on the lantern. "We keep going," he said. His voice was calm, but inside his chest his heart pounded hard. Maria swallowed, looking around the chamber. "This place is testing us. Those guardians were not there to kill us, only to see if we could solve the riddle. I think more trials are waiting." They walked slowly around the platform in the center of the room. At the base of each pillar, more carvings spread out across the stone floor. Symbols of stars, numbers, and lines arranged like puzzles. The patterns glowed faintly, as if reacting to their presence. Maria crouched beside one of the carvings, running her fingers over the lines. "These are Mayan numbers mixed with star positions. Whoever enters must complete the sequence." Daniel knelt beside her. "Like a lock. If we fail, the guardians will return." Maria nodded. She studied the carvings carefully, whispering to herself as she translated. "It says, the path belongs to the wise, not the careless. Choose wrong, and the skulls will claim you." Daniel glanced around the chamber. The skulls glowed brighter now, as though they were listening. His throat felt dry. "So what do we choose?" Maria closed her eyes for a moment, steadying her breath. "The sequence is a star pattern. The Mayans followed Venus closely. If we choose the wrong star, the chamber may collapse or worse." She pointed to a carving shaped like a skull with its eyes angled to the east. "That one. It matches the position of Venus." Daniel pressed the carving. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the floor trembled, and the glowing skulls flickered. The whispers rose sharply, then softened again. The chamber fell silent. Maria let out a long breath. "We passed the first trial." But more carvings lit up across the floor, spreading in new patterns. The trial was not over. This time, the puzzle was different. Strange shapes lined the floor, forming pictures of animals: jaguars, serpents, birds. Above them, rows of skulls gazed down. Maria's eyes widened. "It's another test. We must choose the animal that guided the Mayans in the underworld myths." Daniel thought hard. He remembered old stories he had heard from the locals. "The jaguar," he said at last. "The Mayans believed jaguars guarded the night and crossed between worlds." Maria hesitated, then nodded. "Yes. It must be the jaguar." Daniel pressed the jaguar carving. The chamber shook again, stronger this time. Dust fell from the ceiling. For a terrifying moment, Daniel thought they had chosen wrong. But then the skull's eyes glowed brighter, and the tremors stopped. The path ahead lit up with faint light, revealing a passage leading deeper. Maria stood quickly. It worked again. Daniel smiled faintly, though sweat covered his face. These trials are not just about knowledge. They test courage, patience, and trust. They stepped into the new passage. The walls closed in tighter, forcing them to walk single file. More carvings lined the walls, this time images of warriors, their skull faces shining. The whispers followed them, louder now, echoing off the stone. At the end of the passage, they entered another chamber. This one was smaller but filled with rows of stone statues. Each statue was a warrior with a skull mask, holding weapons of stone. Their hollow eyes glowed faintly. Daniel lifted his lantern higher. "Another test," he whispered. As if in answer, the statues stirred. One by one, their stone arms lifted, weapons raised. Their jaws opened, and from within came a low rumble that shook the ground. Maria grabbed Daniel's arm. "What do we do?" Daniel thought fast. Running would be useless. Fighting was impossible. Then he noticed something. The warriors' weapons all pointed toward the floor where another puzzle was carved. A circle of skulls surrounded a central symbol, glowing faintly. Daniel stepped forward. "They're not moving to strike us. They're forcing us to solve this puzzle." Maria studied the circle. "It's a calendar," she said. "The Mayan calendar. We must set the date of creation according to their belief." Daniel frowned. "Do you know it?" Maria's hands shook as she traced the carvings. Yes, it was August 11, 3114 BC, in their calendar. "If I place the markers here," she pressed the carvings in order, her fingers moving quickly. The statues froze, then lowered their weapons. The rumble faded. One by one, their glowing eyes dimmed until only silence remained. Daniel let out a shaky laugh. "You did it?" Maria's face was pale, but her eyes were fierce. "We did it together. These trials, they are not meant to stop us. They are meant to prove if we carry wisdom and courage." Daniel looked ahead at the dark passage waiting beyond the chamber. "Then the real test is still ahead. If we keep passing, we will reach the heart of this cave." They stood side by side, their lanterns the only light in the dark. Though fear pressed heavily on them, their determination burned brighter. Whatever waited deeper in the cave, they would face it. For humanity had always stepped into shadows, seeking light. And this time, the shadows belonged to the dead. Daniel and Maria stepped cautiously through the narrow passage, leaving the last trial chamber behind. The air grew colder with each step, so cold that their breath rose in small clouds. The walls were slick with moisture, and the faint glow from their lanterns reflected off the wet stone. A faint whisper followed them, soft and constant, as if the cave itself was alive. Finally, the passage widened, opening into a massive chamber. The ceiling rose so high that their lanterns barely touched it. Skulls covered every surface, stacked in circles, carved into walls, and placed on stone pillars. Some skulls were small, the size of a child's hand, while others were enormous, larger than Daniel's head. All their eyes glowed faintly, casting an eerie light across the chamber. Maria gasped, her eyes wide. This is the heart of the cave. I never imagined it would be like this." Daniel moved forward slowly, taking in the scene. In the center of the chamber was a circular platform made of polished stone. On it sat a throne carved from a single block, glowing faintly from within. Around the throne, skulls formed concentric rings, each one staring directly at anyone who entered. The whispers grew louder, swirling around them, but somehow, they seemed to be calling them forward, not warning them back. "Look at the throne," Daniel said, pointing. "It's glowing. That must be the treasure." Maria stepped closer, examining the glowing crystal throne. She noticed strange carvings on its surface, lines, symbols, and patterns that resembled both stars and human figures. "This is not just treasure," she said softly. "This is knowledge. The Mayans must have created it to hold the wisdom of the stars, their history, and, maybe even something more." Daniel's eyes shone with excitement. So the stories were true. The treasure is not gold or jewels. It's something far more important. As they approached the throne, the skull's whispers became clearer. They were no longer random murmurs. Words formed, though ancient and strange. Maria listened closely. "They are speaking to us. The dead are telling us that we must prove ourselves one last time. Only those who face fear without hesitation can claim the knowledge." Daniel felt a shiver run down his spine. He knew this was the ultimate test. "Then we have to show courage," he said, tightening his grip on the lantern. Suddenly, the skull's glowing eyes brightened, and the whispers became louder, forming a single voice. It echoed through the chamber, chilling yet commanding. "Who dares to claim the knowledge of the stars and the secrets of the ancients?" Daniel stepped forward. "We are explorers. We seek understanding, not wealth. We honor the Mayans and the wisdom they preserved." The voice seemed to pause, and the glow of the skulls shifted. Then, slowly, one of the larger skulls rose from its place, floating toward them. It hovered in the air, its jaw moving as it spoke. "Many have come. Few have passed. You have faced trials, solved riddles, and shown courage. But do you understand the responsibility of the knowledge you seek?" Maria stepped forward beside Daniel. "We do. Knowledge must be used to help humanity, to learn from the past, and to guide the future. We will not misuse it." The skull seemed to study them, its eyes flickering. Then, in unison, the remaining skulls leaned forward slightly, their whispers now a low hum. The glowing from the throne intensified. A path of light extended from the steps leading to the throne, inviting them closer. Daniel and Maria walked slowly up the stone platform. Each step echoed through the chamber. The whispers followed, wrapping around them like wind through trees. When they reached the throne, Daniel reached out to touch the glowing surface. The moment his fingers met the stone, visions appeared before his eyes: ancient battles, star maps, lost cities, and knowledge of civilizations long forgotten. Maria gasped. "It's incredible. The Mayans knew more than anyone ever imagined. They understood the stars, the cycles of planets, and the power of the mind." The whispers now formed words only they could understand. "This knowledge is not just for one life. It belongs to those who prove themselves. Take it wisely, and carry it with courage. Misuse it, and the cave will claim you." Daniel and Maria exchanged a look. The weight of responsibility pressed on them. They realized this was not just a treasure hunt. This was a test of character. If they were not careful, the cave would become their tomb. Maria spoke softly. "We must remember why we are here. To share what we learn, not to take it for ourselves alone." Daniel nodded. "Then let us take it together. For humanity." As they pressed their hands against the throne, the glowing crystal seemed to pulse in response. The skull's eyes dimmed, and the whispers softened. The chamber filled with a warm, steady light. They could feel the knowledge of the Mayans, the wisdom of the stars, flowing into their minds. They understood that this treasure was far greater than any gold or gem. It was proof of human courage, curiosity, and the ability to face the unknown. Finally, Daniel and Maria stepped back from the throne. The chamber remained glowing, but the weight of fear had lifted. They had succeeded in passing the trials and earning the wisdom that had been guarded for centuries. Daniel looked at Maria, his face filled with awe. "We did it. The cave has accepted us." Maria smiled, though exhaustion and wonder showed on her face. "Yes. But we cannot keep it hidden forever. The world must know what we have discovered." Together, they prepared to leave the chamber, carrying with them not just the treasure of knowledge, but the proof that humanity could face even the dead and stand strong. The Mayan cave of eternal skulls had revealed its secrets to them. Daniel and Maria stood in the chamber of skulls, the glow from the throne reflecting in their eyes. The knowledge they had seen filled their minds with visions, lost cities, star maps, and the wisdom of the Mayans. But now, a new sense of unease pressed upon them. The whispers of the skulls grew louder again, not as soft guides this time, but as voices demanding a decision. A skeletal figure, taller and larger than the rest, rose from the center of the chamber. Its hollow eyes glowed brighter than before. Its voice echoed in the air, commanding and deep. "You have reached the heart of the cave. You have proven your courage and wisdom. But knowledge is not given lightly. You must choose. Will you guard this wisdom forever, or leave and let it be shared with the world?" Daniel swallowed hard. He had expected trials, but now he realized the cave demanded more than courage. It demanded sacrifice. "Guard it forever," he whispered. "What does that mean?" The skeletal figure stepped closer. "Those who claim the knowledge may take it for themselves, but to do so, they must remain bound to the cave. They become its protector, living in shadow, never leaving. To leave, the knowledge must be shared with humanity, but this choice awakens great power and responsibility." Maria's eyes widened. "So we cannot take it and run. If we keep it, we are trapped here. If we leave, we must ensure the world uses it wisely." Daniel clenched his fists. He had dreamed of discovery, of showing the world the secrets hidden by time. But he also felt the weight of the cave's warning. The dead did not guard treasure to punish the living, they tested them to see if they could bear responsibility. He looked at Maria. "What do you think we should do?" Maria's voice was steady. "We cannot keep it for ourselves. This knowledge belongs to all of humanity. The Mayans built this cave to protect it, but also to teach that wisdom must be shared, not hoarded." The skeletal figure tilted its head, as if judging her answer. "Words are easy," it said. "Actions must match them. Are you willing to face the consequences of your choice?" Daniel nodded. "We are. We will take the knowledge and share it. We will not let it be used for harm. Humanity is capable of greatness, and we must trust that." The chamber trembled slightly. The glow from the skulls brightened and then softened. The skeletal figure's hollow eyes seemed to study them one last time. "Then you are ready," it said. "The knowledge may leave the cave, but the guardians will watch. Those who misuse it will face the consequences." Maria stepped forward, holding her lantern high. "We understand. We accept the responsibility. We will protect it by teaching its lessons, not by hiding it." The glowing throne pulsed, sending waves of light through the chamber. Daniel reached out again, touching the surface. This time, The energy felt different, not just visions, but understanding. The knowledge flowed into them as if alive, filling their minds with clear insight, and leaving them with a deep sense of purpose. The whispers of the skulls softened into gentle guidance. They showed Daniel and Maria the paths they must take, the knowledge to record, and the truths humanity could learn. It was not easy to absorb, and their minds ached with the depth of what they now understood. After a long moment, the skeletal figure spoke one last time. "You have chosen wisely. You carry the wisdom of the ancients, the courage of the living, and the responsibility of the future. Go, and let humanity grow." Daniel and Maria exchanged a glance. Relief washed over them, but so did a solemn weight. They were no longer just explorers. They were the keepers of something far greater than treasure, far greater than themselves. Maria whispered, "We cannot fail. What we share must help humanity, not harm it." Daniel nodded. "We will do it together. The Mayans trusted us, and we must not betray that trust." As they turned toward the exit, the skull's glow dimmed slightly, as if bowing in approval. The chamber felt calm now, the whispers fading to a quiet hum. The cave had tested them, and they had proven themselves. The path back through the tunnels felt less threatening. Even the skeletal guardians from earlier trials did not move to block them. It was as if the cave itself guided them toward the surface, trusting that they would fulfill their promise. When they finally reached the mouth of the cave, dawn had begun to break over the jungle. The light of the rising sun bathed the trees in gold. Daniel and Maria stood outside, exhausted but filled with purpose. They had faced the unknown, solved riddles, confronted the dead, and made the hardest choice of their lives. Maria turned to Daniel. "We did it. The world will never be the same once it knows what we learned." Daniel smiled, a mix of joy and solemn responsibility in his eyes. "And we will make sure humanity is ready. We have been tested, and we have passed. Now, the journey truly begins." Together, they walked down the jungle path, carrying not just ancient knowledge, but the courage and wisdom to use it wisely. The Mayan Cave of Eternal Skulls had released its secrets, and Daniel and Maria were ready to share them with the world. The trials were over, but the responsibility would last a lifetime. Daniel and Maria emerged from the jungle into the first rays of sunlight. The air felt warmer, softer, and alive with the sounds of birds and insects. After days in the cave, they felt both exhausted and renewed. The knowledge they carried was heavy, but it was not just information, it was a responsibility to help humanity grow. They made their way back to the nearest village. Locals watched in awe as the explorers emerged, muddy, wet, and tired, but triumphant. Daniel held the map and the notes Maria had written carefully, while Maria carried her notebook filled with translations and diagrams of the cave's secrets. An elder approached them. His eyes were wide with wonder, and he spoke softly, almost in reverence. You have returned. The cave, you have faced it?" Daniel nodded. "Yes. We have seen what no one else has. The Mayan Cave of Eternal Skulls is real, and its knowledge belongs to the world, not just the shadows of the jungle." The villagers listened silently as Maria explained some of what they had learned: the star maps, the understanding of the Mayans' advanced knowledge, and the careful way the cave tested courage and wisdom. Though they could not understand everything, they sensed the importance of the discovery. Word of their return spread quickly. Scholars and explorers from nearby towns traveled to hear their account. Daniel and Maria shared what they could, showing sketches of the skull chambers, the throne, and the carvings. But they also emphasized caution. This knowledge was powerful, and it required respect. Daniel spoke to the crowd. The Mayans left this not as treasure to take for ourselves, but as a gift and a challenge. It shows that humanity is capable of courage, intelligence, and wisdom. We must use what we learn responsibly. Maria added, the cave was guarded not to scare people away, but to teach us that every choice carries responsibility. Knowledge alone is not enough. Courage, patience, and respect must guide us. As scholars began to study the sketches and notes, Daniel and Maria realized the impact of their discovery. The knowledge of the Mayans could change humanity's understanding of history, science, and the stars. The wisdom they had gained in the cave could inspire new inventions, new ideas, and a deeper respect for human potential. One evening, as they rested near the edge of the village, Maria looked at Daniel. Do you realize what we have done? We are the first humans to return with the full knowledge of the cave. We have brought the future into the present. Daniel nodded slowly. Yes. But it is not just about us. The cave chose us because it trusted humanity. Now it is our duty to ensure that trust is not broken. Over the following weeks, teams of scholars and scientists worked with Daniel and Maria to carefully document the knowledge. They built models of the star maps, studied the carvings, and began to understand the Mayans' connection to the cosmos. It was a slow process, but each discovery was a triumph. In the evenings, Daniel and Maria often walked quietly through the jungle, reflecting on their journey. They remembered the trials, the whispers of the skulls, and the glowing throne. Each step in the cave had tested them, and each choice had prepared them for the responsibility they now carried. One night, Maria spoke softly. Do you ever think about the guardians? The skeletal figures that watched us? Daniel smiled faintly. I do. But they did not just guard the treasure. They reminded us what it means to be human. Courage, wisdom, and respect are stronger than fear. That is what we carry now. Months later, the first official presentation of the cave's knowledge took place in a large hall filled with scientists, historians, and students. Daniel and Maria stood before the crowd. Their voices were steady, their hearts full. They showed diagrams, explained the star charts, and told the story of the cave. The audience listened in awe. Some were inspired to study astronomy, others to explore history in new ways. And many felt a renewed pride in human potential, the courage to face the unknown and the ability to grow from it. Daniel looked at Maria after the presentation. The cave's purpose is complete, he said. It has chosen us, tested us, and now humanity can benefit from it. Maria nodded. Yes. We carry its wisdom, and now it belongs to the world. The Mayans' vision lives on, through us and through all who will learn from it. As they stepped outside into the evening light, the jungle stretched before them, calm and eternal. The memory of the cave remained, glowing softly in their minds. They had faced the dead, solved the trials, and made the choice to share knowledge responsibly. Humanity had claimed the treasure of courage, wisdom, and understanding. And with it, the future was brighter, guided by the lessons of the past and the strength of human spirit. The Mayan cave of eternal skulls had given its gift, and Daniel and Maria had ensured it would never be lost again.